I am one of the Maryland families that have been victimized by SWAT teams, the unlawful, unnecessary, absolutely abusive use of SWAT teams. In November of 2011, my family was interrupted in our sleep at 5 a.m. in the morning, pitch night, my door was hammered upon and people were screaming, come on, open up this door, we will burst it down. We will tear it down, we will bust it down, you better get down here right now. I came running in my nightgown, saying, please don't tear down my door. I opened the door and the SWAT team rushed into my house, pushed me aside with their riot shields, dropped a big old battering ram in the middle of my foyer, and with night goggles on, full military gear, and sniper rifles, and proceeded to just, round up every member of my family, very brutally, throwing the men to the floor. My 80-year-old mother at that point came out. They put a gun on her, made her stand in the foyer in her nightgown in the cold, because this is November, and until some 20 minutes later, somebody said, that's not fair, she's an older woman, we need to let her sit. And they finally moved her into the living room where they were holding all of us at gunpoint, double gunpoint. Two police officers with guns as the SWAT team continued to proceed throughout my home. I kept saying to them, because I am a lawyer, where's your search warrant? Where's a warrant for you to be in my house? They kept saying, the other detective will bring it. I said, that's not lawful. How can you be in my home without a warrant on the premises? And they kept saying, the other guy is going to bring it. I said, you need to leave my house. They would not leave. Finally, the other detective came. I said, where's the search warrant? And he says, I don't need a search warrant. It is under seal. And I said, where's the evidence that you have any kind of warrant whatsoever? And he says, I don't have to produce that. And I said, the Fourth Amendment says you can't be in my home without a warrant. And he says the Fourth Amendment doesn't apply in these kinds of situations. I said, of course it does. It's never, to my knowledge, the Constitution has not been suspended. Nevertheless, they continue to, threaten us, don't move or we'll shoot. They continue to, just any kind of fidgeting, any kind of action, any kind of, my mom requested to go to the restroom. They wouldn't let her go to the restroom for 2 whole hours. They held us at gunpoint for 3 hours, almost 3 whole hours, while they, ran through the house. And we could hear the entire time during this incident, we could hear them moving bodies in and out of the basement door, because I have one of those homes where the security alarm tells you which door is being opened. And I could hear basement door open as they move troops in. Officers, SWAT team members in and out of my home. And they brought them in the back door after they had brought people in the front door. So I never know how many people were actually in the home, but it was quite a lot. And at the end of the day, it turned out that they, as they left, they gave me a bill, the goods that they, quote, had seized, said that they were there to, because of my, said that they were there because of, this search warrant, and then just, and I told them that this was all unnecessary. It was horrible. It didn't make sense that they terrorized my family like this. That there was no reason for them to come into my home in the middle of the night. They could have come in at daytime. They didn't need the night goggles. The fear of killing people because they moved in the dark. I told them this was all horrid, and that it was absolutely unnecessary. And I was going to complain to the Department of Justice about it, and I was going to complain nationally in the media about it, because nothing like this ever should be happening to people. And they just say, this is the way we operate. And this is, what we do. And I said, you shouldn't be doing it. This is just absolutely outrageous. And it turned out after they left, we went through the house, they had torn up my mom's bed, torn up my bed, torn up my son's bed, torn up jewelry. I still can't figure that out. Torn up, just left clothes and beddings and everything all over the floor. Put holes in my walls. I still don't understand what they were doing. I think they just got mad because I was protesting so much. And in fact, they made threats at times. My son said, you really shouldn't be doing this. And they said, which one of those cars outside are yours? And he says, well, why do, he says, the green one, why do you want to know? Just so that we'll know in the future. And I said, you better stop threatening my son. That's the kind of stuff we had to deal with, during this 3 hours of siege. It was absolutely outrageous. I told them I was an attorney, and they laughed and said, what kind of lawyer can you be? And just really derisive, sarcastic, disrespectful, absolutely running around like we were the worst terrorists in the universe. And it turned out, in the end of the day, that after they destroyed my home and I had to spend thousands of dollars fixing it up, after repairing and buying new stuff, after we went through all of this, it turns out they never even really had a basis for the warrant. And that they had to, after my poor nephew had been in jail, lost his job, gone through all this suffering, they eventually they had to throw the case out because there was no basis for the case whatsoever. He was at work. They could have known that if they had done any kind of basic investigation, they would have known he was not their target. But nevertheless, they came in and destroyed my family and traumatized my family. My son couldn't sleep in his bed for months. My mom disassociated, had to go to the hospital, the doctor the next day, and be treated for severe mental trauma. It was just devastating. My nephew was arrested a few days later. Once again, I think they only did this to defend themselves, to try to make their search look warranted, even though they arrested him on the job, the very job where he was working during the incident they claimed he might have been a suspect in. If they knew where he was working then, couldn't they have checked before they did this on purpose. They tried to cover up. They lied to people, said there was never a battering ram, said that they never threatened to burst down the door. They lied repeatedly in the press and to the public. And, I just think it's inexcusable, this kind of behavior in the United States of America. Reporting is important, so people need to know that these things are happening. They need to know that we're using SWAT teams inappropriately. They treated us like we were gangsters. It was just our mobsters or terrorists. There was just no basis for the way in which they did. I head up the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. I deal with policing all over the country and policing reform. It's something I'm very familiar with. And these kinds of deployments are absolutely unnecessary. There's no police methodology that justifies it. Maryland should be ashamed as a state to allow this kind of rampant use of SWAT teams that we're seeing in the state. Anybody can be a victim of this. That's why this bill is so important. We need to really, really make sure these SWAT teams are only deployed if there is a very high risk of danger or imminent harm, that there never should be any deployment of SWAT teams just because people want to get more training and more exercise. Just because this is the way that they can keep using their gear. The fact that they came in at night with night goggles, they didn't need to do that. Once again, this is playing with the equipment that they've gotten. This is a direct result of over-militarization of police. And it really needs to stop. at every single level. These SWAT teams should only be deployed in the absolute last instance. They should not be your first line of defense. They should be your last line of deployment. And there is no justification for what happened in Prince George's County. There's no justification for over 1,600 SWAT team deployments in the state of Maryland. There's no justification for that.